Okay, good evening, guys. Good morning and good afternoon in other parts of the world. Welcome to the project Event Management, hosted by me, the panel, and obviously the guy who will be talking. And I have a great cast of guys here. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself. So my name is Tutaleni Longa, and I'm from a little country called Namibia with 2.7 million people. And I'm a jack of all trades basically. And yeah, I do game development stuff as well. And so this is my introduction. So I own a company called TL Entertainment, which is involved with comic books, films, and game development, and also event management. And this is my background. So the first person we're going to introduce is we're going to start off with one of the ladies, and we're going to go with Tiffany. Feel free
Hi,
to introduce yourself.
of course, thank you. Hi, I'm Tiffany Otto. I'm the director of partnership for Indiecade. We're like Sundance for video games. I myself am from Australia, but the company's based in Los Angeles, California. We have our flagship event in LA in October. We also have in New York and we have in Paris, France, as well as the only independent space at E3 in LA. I've been in video games my whole career. I used to do AAA development at Rockstar Games, and I've done independent development at Firehose Games. So, yeah, I'm here to help out. Thank you, Tuta, for having me.
Yeah, like the Rockstar game thing, it's so interesting. Like as soon as you manage that, like everyone who does games knows Rockstar Games GTA. That's all they know. Nice introduction. So next on the list, we're gonna have Lucas from Brazil.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Tuta. It's an honor to be part of your new projects. So basically, I started off in the video games as a more academic side. I used to, write a bunch of stuff for some articles, for a little bit of game journalism, and tons of articles for our university. Ever since I started to organize some events, basically on university and close by places, and but led me to organizing Game Jam Plus, which was the event, which is the event that Tuta is right now organizing in Namibia and Ronica in South Africa. And I entered in the project in the beginning in 2017. But I left this year to pursue now business development. I'm currently working for Hermit Crab. It's a Brazilian company that mostly do mobile sport games, and we also distribute some other titles aside from our own on the telco market on third-party stores. So I'm all about indie development. I've been together with indie developers my whole life. And yeah, I think it's great what we're doing here, and I sure hope so. I can always, help people improve their own projects and their own careers.
Good. Thanks for that introduction, Lucas. Yeah, it was really fun to meet you guys last year, you and Ian and all the other guys. So next on the list, we're gonna go with Ronica from Durban, South Africa.
Yes, hi, I'm Ronica. As you said, from Durban, South Africa. I'm a software developer and got interested in making games, yet haven't released any, but still in development. I also find quite interesting is training other people in development and stuff like that and making games. So that's a new venture for me. That's that's me.
Okay, short and sweet. So next we're gonna have a fellow country person, Damono, and she's gonna tell us who she is and what she does.
Hi everyone. Like Tuta said, my name is Ndamono and I'm also from Namibia. Just to give you a bit of background about myself, I am a civil servant. I work for the government of Namibia. My background is in clinical psychology and I currently do vocational courses. On a personal level, I'm very rooted in my community. I started an events company that mostly does community-related activities in the film and creative industry. So we do a lot of film screenings, we do a lot of film festivals, and we also do other types of events such as book launches or motivational talks. That's basically me in a nutshell.
Okay, cool. So last but not least is Sandra. And okay, so her camera might not be working, but she's gonna just do with the microphone, and it's also fine from our side.
Yeah, so sorry for that. Hi everyone, well, my name is Sandra. I'm from Mexico. I'm the co-founder of BitMatter. We are a software and video game company. We have more than years in the market. And all started because I was, since I was a little girl, I was amazed by video games. So at the age of 14, more or less, I decided that that's what I wanted to do for a living. And so I studied the career of computer science. And during my time as a student, I joined a group of developers. We did some projects, but unfortunately, at that time we were young and no money. So they never saw the light of the day. Sorry, since we didn't have enough support like a make a commercial product. So with that in mind, we started our first company, and when I graduated, we founded BitMatter, and currently we make apps for clients around the world, and we have our own developments and our own video games also. After that, well, I don't know if you guys know that here in Mexico, the development video games industry is in baby steps. We are not, we are like more of hundreds development studios, but we are small. There's not a big company right now here in Mexico making video games. So we started an idea called Indies Mexico. And Indies Mexico, we started like 3 or 4 years ago. We have the concern to contact other development studios, and because we had the idea of creating an initiative to bring together all the studies of the country to promote developments made in Mexico. And we began to contact all the studies and organize our first event that was called Festival in Mexico in 2018. And that was our first project, our first event to bring together all the people here in Mexico.
Cool. That was like maybe one of the best introductions we had so far. You know,
Thank you.
just talking about like how your company.
Talking.
Yeah, just like how you spoke about how the whole indie thing became popular. And I can tell you right now that 100 companies in Mexico in gaming is not small. Like that's actually a lot compared to us in Namibia. We only have like what, not even more than 5. So anyway, the introduction was nice because you can see why this panel was picked. Everyone is something in common, one way or the other. So now I'm going to start off with the questions, and obviously I'm going to start off with me. So now the question I'm going to ask is that how was like the first event that you ever organized or you were ever involved in? So like with me, I remember when it came to like events, I think event is probably something that was always in my it was always in my life, you know. So it was something that I think it started as early as high school, because I remember in high school around, I think it was the 10th grade or the 9th grade, we ended up organizing like a football competition, you know, and I was like part of that. So I actually didn't know that. I'm actually just discovering it now and remembering it. Oh, so that's when I started with this. But like in the professional terms, the first event I was involved in, I didn't create it. It was someone else's event. We just came and helped out. It was it was around 2016 or 17, somewhere there. We organized like in our country. It was like an initiative to try and like create films to just promote film development in my country. So that was like the event I was ever involved in a group. So with that being said, I'm gonna ask, this time I'm gonna go first with Lucas. And I was gonna ask Lucas, what was the first event you were ever involved in? Like not an event, not an event that you organized yourself, but an event. Were you ever involved like in an event where someone else needed help from you to help out with organizing?
Well, let's see. As you mentioned, myself as well, I probably started off helping out in events when I was in high school. I remember where I used to study, we used to have this week of cultural exchange and stuff like that. And I clearly remember that being the greatest week in the year when I was in school. Thinking right now, thinking back right now, it was probably where it all started. My desire to be part of events and helping organizing things like that. But basically there were no classes, so that's a plus. And we were always organizing and preparing for this huge presentation all the classes should do, thematic or not. But I was just glad to be involved in helping different classes to organize their own presentations. So probably that's where it all started. Nothing game related then. I just used to play a lot, but not nothing related to actually working with games. But after that, I probably started slowly going through change of views of when I realized I could actually work with games. So basically, I think when I got more like professional like thing related to gaming industry, it was a little bit before college when a teacher of mine, a history teacher of mine, asked me to help him in a project for game development, educational game. But it wasn't really clear what they wanted to do, but he just wanted a help from someone who actually played games with a game of full
Yeah.
PhDs that didn't know what they were talking about. So I was like a consultant in gaming, and I was just like 17. uh, so it was a crazy experience. I used to go to the university he was doing his master degree to help them. And I started to get my experience in managing a project like in terms of that. Well, it was a great experience to how to deal with people older than you, and people who doesn't really don't really take you seriously because you're young. But after that, I just started to get more experience. I started to organize my own events in the university, and then Game Jam Plus and all that stuff. That's how it happened.
Yeah, I mean, interesting to go with that. I mean, yeah, I can imagine. So once again, it appears that somehow we have a similar pattern as well. So the next person that I would like an answer from, I'll go with Damono this time. Like, what was the first event you were ever involved in terms of organizing? Not your own one, but just something where you had to help someone. And how was the experience?
Yeah. My background is similar to yours and Lucas. I also started out in high school where I was part of, the junior town council of my town, and we were tasked with organizing the annual beauty pageant for the teenagers. So that was basically my first exposure to project or event management. And a few years later, when I started out my company, my first big event, I would say, was a premiere of a film. Okay, so this was around in 2016 when I was volunteering with an international NGO, and they wanted to bring a Namibian film to the Namibian people. This film had been screened all over the world. It had won numerous awards, but it was never shown to its people. So I was roped in to basically help with the organizing of the launch. And it was quite challenging to me because the launch happened in a town that was outside of the capital city. Okay, so most of the events happened in the capital city, and now they wanted to do something different. So they decided to take it to a predominantly rural area. So already there were challenges there of trying to expose the local residents to something different, because they were not used to having film screenings. There was no cinema there at that time. So that was definitely the major challenge. Marketing was also quite big. We had to use various ways to market the event to try and get people to get out of their houses to come and see the film that was shot in their country. But ultimately things went well, and I was just glad that people got to enjoy, enjoy the film and to enjoy that event. Yeah.
Wow, that's very nice to hear. I didn't know about that story, so it's always good to like learn something new. So now we're gonna go to Sandra. Like Sandra, what was like the first event you were ever involved in? I think you kind of answered half of that question, but then I would just like to know, like, were you ever involved like in an event whereby you were helping someone to organize an event, or just be involved in a project or something like that?
Yeah, the first time that I was involved in a project was, I think, in my university, like in 2007. I
Wow.
was like, I was in 2 or 3 semesters of the career, and in our university we have something called La Semana de Ingeniería, the week of the engineering. So in that week, all the classes were suspended, but there were workshops, there were conferences, and things that helped the students to enhance their knowledge, right? So the first time that I got to know to that event that lasts all week, I was really amazed because I think that it was a really cool idea that had every year that kind of event in the school. So the next year, in 2007, because I was in 2006, 2006 was my first year at the university. In 2007, we have a group of developers, video games developers. We were learning and making video games just for fun, for hobby, and for learn, right? So as a students, we were given the opportunity to give a demonstration, a conference, and be in front of other students. So it was really, really nice to participate in that way because all the conference that were at the time were older people or more people with experience and graduates, and to be a part of that event as a student, it was really nice that we had that space, right? So I think that was my first event, and that's what the first step that I was to wanted to continue with that in that line of video games and development and events also.
Viva la raza! That was so nice to hear. I mean, we don't even have like I don't think we have those like when it comes to universities. I don't think, or I think we do now, but I think back then we didn't have like those type of programs at universities, because those programs are so nice because it kind of gives the students like a reality check how event management actually is. So that was really nice, and it probably paid dividends along the way. So next, we're gonna go with Tiffany. I'm pretty sure she has probably a wild story she would like to tell us on how her first like involvement in events was, like when she was helping with someone. Like, how was it like when you first did your project or event management thing when you were helping someone else? How was it? First startup, if you ever had any of those experiences.
I think we're
On? Oh, I think something is wrong.
Yeah.
So it's not back in time. We can just pass the question on to Ronica. If Ronica perhaps answer the question, like, should I repeat the question or you have it?
Just repeat it again.
Okay, so how was your first experience in the streets of Durban in organizing your first, like, did you ever how was your first involvement in project and event management when you were doing it for someone else? Did you ever like work with someone else or help someone else in terms of coming up with an event or a project kind of management thing, or like that?
It's my first time being involved in an event. That's what you're saying. What you're asking. Okay,
Yeah.
this would have been when I was working at the municipality, and that was 14 years of my work life. One of those years, it would have been the first time our department, I worked for supply chain management. So supply chain management, basically, it's about procurement of goods. So that's what this part of the municipality was about. Someone mentioned that they wanted us to get involved in a team building exercise. There was talks about it, but no one really did anything. So I kind of took the initiative and put into practice what I learned where I was working. That is getting like 3 codes for procuring of goods. So I did the exact same practice and got 3 codes for events organizers and for that does management for team building exercises. And eventually I got all the information and then got all the people who were supposed to be doing the decision makers get involved in the meeting and left it to them to do everything else to decide. So that was my small part of being involved in an event organizing.
Yeah.
Very small.
That was fun to hear. Right. So Tiffany is back.
Sorry.
Obviously, internet. Something happened with the internet. It happened. I thought it was only like a Namibian thing or a South African thing. But it appears to be a worldwide thing.
It's a global thing. Don't worry.
It's because we're all in our houses, so the internet's overloaded.
Yeah. So Tiffany, you're gonna be last. So are you still familiar with the question, or should I rephrase it?
No, I understood the question. So basically, I helped out a lot during while I was at boarding school. But then my first internship in video games was an independent studio called Firehose Games in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It was a bunch of MIT game design PhDs, and I was brought on to help out because they were doing a game aimed at like the like women's demographic. They didn't have any women on the team, and we were going to show the game at E3 and at PAX, and they were frantically trying to figure out what the strategy for like making our game stand out at PAX was. And this is in like what, 2009, 2010? I want to say 09. The important part of this is like Facebook was a thing. Instagram hadn't been invented yet. Social media as we know it, like all the stuff we use to promote indie games now didn't exist. So it was a lot of boots on the ground work. So like to one of the other panelists' points, like marketing, we had to get creative. I spent hundreds of hours putting together buttons, like pins to give away at the booth. That was my primary thing. Our strategy was give away buttons with a cute character on them so that people would get obsessed with it and then want to play the game. And like I wasn't putting on the event myself, but putting on your own booth at a big event like that is almost like putting on a micro event because you got to differentiate yourself from everyone else. You got to do your own marketing, got to bring in your own clientele. And we did a lot with Facebook, and not Facebook advertising like it is now. Because remember, this was like over a decade ago. It was like trying to make our Facebook page interesting. Like you could modify the pages more back then. So like learning like a different, computer language to try and like do the page. It's like, it's an underpinning. So it's not this, it's not the really cool part about like, getting to be on stage at the event or being like, yes, this is my event. It's the pipe work below the event. It's the scaffolding. It's sort of the grunt work that you do on the back end to make the whole thing run. So that's sort of my first professional and non-professional experience.
Whoa, I mean, like when you said that Facebook wasn't popular back then, when I think of us now, I think because the next question is obviously going to be, what was it like when you first did your first event, like your own event, like the first time? And thinking of it now, I should say that, so since I think I'm the youngest in the group, I should say that I'm more at an advantage because I'm kind of born in an era where when we're like Lucas and I basically, so we're kind of in an era whereby technology has made it easier for us to market because in this new day and age, everyone is just on their phone. So with that being said, like I remember the first time I organized like my own event. So my own event that I organized was Global Game Jam. That was now like the first time I was officially getting involved in event management. And since it was so short and it was so there were a lot of people, I just decided to like do it among friends. I think we were just 5 or 6, and we ended up just organizing an event thing. So it was so I wouldn't say it was I wasn't happy with it, obviously, but looking at it now, I understood, because we just didn't have like I didn't have the manpower or the necessities required to just like make it huge and stuff. But there was like my first event that I organized. Like I didn't even make it big. I kind of treated it like a pilot test run and just see like how it would work out and everything. So now we're gonna shuffle the questions a bit, and this time I'm gonna go with Veronica going first. So Veronica, like the first event on your own, how did it go? Like the first one, like the first ever event to say this is my event. How did it go? If you were ever involved in such events like alone, how did it go?
Yeah, so just like you, my first attempt at my first event was Global Game Jam. Poorly done, not much in attendance, actually no attendance. And well, the only one good thing I had was the venue. But that's well, out of everything else, that was the only thing that was good. So now you can never find a venue. Yeah, although that was disappointing, I didn't let that put me down. So when the next opportunity I had was Game Jam Plus, thank you, Lucas. That came about because of, I think, with my growing reputation, I Make Games essay, and because he reached out to Stephen too first, and he declined, and Stephen referred him to me. So that's my second attempt at a Game Jam event, I suppose, which turned out with not bad, about 5 or 6 people, and came down to 4. But that was a good first time experience. In between all of that, I was making my attempt to run game development workshops at the same venue. So
Yeah.
for a quiet person like me, I kind of grew, I would say. Yeah, so that would have been my own experiences on my own events, and hope to still do a whole lot more.
Wow. I mean, it's so fascinating to hear that event management and project management in general can raise a person's confidence. Yeah, I never thought of mine, but after hearing you speak, I was like, yeah, it kind of
Yeah,
did do the same as
just like you, doing on my own, I didn't think I would, and honestly, I don't think I was on my own, because the venue, the owner of the venue was a former student of mine, and he helped me out a great deal. So when I
Yeah.
might have been emotionally lost somewhere, at least he was there. So I had a little
That's
bit of help.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Mono, how was your first like experience when you did your own event? If you ever did one, like how was it?
My first experience, let me say it was work related. I had to organize a workshop. So like I said in my intro, I do vocational counseling, which is pretty much career guidance and counseling. So we also do pre-retirement workshops where we help employees to plan for their retirement. So I remember I had just joined the ministry, and these workshops were already taking place, and I was basically thrown into the deep end, given a date, and I was told, this is the day you are going to present and you need to organize the workshop. So I was really confused. I did not know where to start. I didn't know how much time and effort goes into it. It was definitely a learning curve for me, because now my writing has improved, my time management skills have improved. My stakeholder engagement has even improved. But I will say one thing, I was really confused during those, that period of planning, because I was just going with the wind, basically. And trying to get as much support from my supervisors as possible. So yeah, that was my first event experience, and I've done 3 workshops now, and I must say the planning has improved drastically.
Yeah, no, I know the feeling because when I was doing mine as well, just something I forgot to mention was like it was going with the wind, but I wanted more for people to like see this and just for people to attend. That was what I was mostly worried about. Like it was just like how many people can I get here to actually participate? So that was like my main worry, like the first time I did it. But yeah, we had like 5 people, so it wasn't that bad. It was a good turnout. So Sandra, how was your first event? Like when you organize your own event? I'm not sure if you answered it already, but how was it like your first one? Because I can imagine there was a university one. So how was like your own professional one? Like how did it go?
Well, my first event was really, really challenging. As I mentioned before, we wanted to make something for the community, for the development community here in Mexico. So there were some events at the south of Mexico. We aren't at the border in Ciudad Juarez, the border of the United States. So we decided, why can we make an event, right? So a national event. Um, for starter, it was really, really challenging because the first thing was content. What are the people that are going to be invited, the conference, the workshops, and the place, right? I needed a place to gather all the people. Fortunately, at the university, I graduated from my university 10 years ago, a long time. But my university told me, uh, you know what, since you always be part of the university and make events and such, we are going to give you the whole week of engineering just for you to make your event. And I was like shocked. I was like, oh, really? It was amazing that the university gave me the whole engineering week, La Semana Ingeniería that I mentioned before, just for my event. But I said, wait a minute, thank you for giving me all the week, but it's too much for me. It was my first event. So I'm just going to take 2 days, 2 days only to make the event. So I started to contact people, developers all around the world, people that were also not only in the background of video games, but also with a background of entrepreneurs, people that were already experiencing the out world, out there, sorry, that the students were able to learn from these people, right? So when I gathered the people, there was things like a simple thing like writing an email. I was like, oh my God, I need to write an email. And I was reading and reading one again. I do it right. No, I'm going to do it again. The little thing like that it always like blew my mind, right? That I wanted to do everything like perfect, but there's a lot of things involved. So, well, I gathered the people. Now the budget, the money. We had no money. we need sponsors to make the event. So that was my second task to to sorry,
Nice.
to gather, yeah, to find the sponsors, to write sponsors. But yeah, with the content, I already had the content, and like we have these guests, we have we're gonna offer these things to the students, to the public in general. That was most easy to find sponsorships. And our first event, it really with a small budget, it went really, really well. It was a great response of all the people. For me, it was like a little bit how can I say it, rushed for us, for saying a word,
Yeah, very
because
rushed.
it was yeah, because it was in all the university gave me all the installations, but they weren't like proper for the things that we wanted to offer. So we have to take the things that we have and make the best out of it. So we rent tents, we rent stands, and I convert the parking lot of the university and the whole event, and it was really, really nice. And with that first event, we got the second one was easy because with the people already knew what we can do with a small budget, so they were more like able to participate. In the second one, it was more easy for people to wanted to participate in the event. But it was really, really challenging, the first one. But it was a really great experience to see the response of the people. And the second thing that I was really like rewarded is that we wanted to all be free. We didn't charge one penny for anything. And the people really was grateful for that, because we needed here in Mexico, we needed spaces that people could show their projects and to have that networking with other people so the industry can grow. So that was my first event.
Okay, so it appears to me that Sandra and Damono, you guys first were extremely challenging, like compared to you guys. If I can tell, Veronica and mine was just pretty much was like, if it goes well, if it doesn't go well, you have nothing to lose. But if we had nothing, still felt like a big that it can go our way. Tiffany, was yours similar to theirs as well? Like when you had to do your first event, were you also just like thrown into the mix, or how do you?
So I think that honestly, events are always just being thrown into the mix, and anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't work in events. That's my personal. So I kind of have two stories, but I'm going to go with the less interesting one first because I think it's an honest one. And like, I think there's a lot of glamorization of the events industry when it's a lot of hard work. So if you're defining as the first event that was all my own that I did myself, it'd be back in boarding school. It would be when I was 17, 18, and I was a prefect, yes, like in Harry Potter. And what that meant is every semester, each dormitory was allowed to have, because we were a boarding school, each dormitory was allowed to have like 2 off-campus events. And what that meant is you could go visit an art walk, or you could take a group of boarding students to the museum, because it wasn't like we weren't allowed to leave campus. So my first event that I guess I did all by myself was I took some students to a Renaissance fair. And for those of you who don't know, Renaissance fair is where a bunch of people dress up like they're from like knights and dragons and castles and stuff, and make a little village and pretend that they live in like, I don't know, the Middle Ages. So but it's kind of cool. That happens for like a weekend. And there was one, the biggest Renaissance fair in California was a 30-minute drive from the campus. Now, why am I mentioning this? Because all the stuff you guys are talking about in real life events, I kind of got, I got to practice in like sandbox mode at school, because I had to get buy-in from stakeholders. I had to submit a proposal to the dorm head, to the dean of students, and to the head, head of residential life, saying like, you know, the outline of the event, how many students were going to be eligible, how we were going to get there, would the school's insurance cover it, what prefects are going to be in charge, what dormitory head or the head of dormitory heads, who would sign off, what adult would vouch for us and be the advisor for the event. So I had to practice filling out that paperwork, and I had to get buy-in on my own level. It wasn't just getting the upperclassmen, not the upperclassmen, the professors. It was getting like, I had to get the other prefects to sign off, because it would be one of our 2 events for the semester. So at the prefect meeting, I had to be like, hey guys, it's a Ren fair. I know none of you like Ren fairs, but we've got some kids in the dorm who would probably like it. And then like, you know, there was also, you know, then I had to talk to the students. I'd see, oh, is there even interest? Is there market interest in going to this kind of event? Like, would they want to do this? And so once I gauged enough interest, then I could sell that up to my own people on my level, get their buy-in, and then sell it up to the dorm head. So once I had all that, then I had to make sure we had the car. We had the sign off for the insurance for the car. I drove the kids there. I had to make sure that I passed the safety training that they made me do to make sure I could take 6 kids to the fair. And then afterwards, I had to collect feedback from the kids and make sure they liked it, to make sure they had a good time. And it was a success. Oh, and I took some pictures. This is before smartphones, so I brought a camera with me because the professors wanted proof that it was worth the, you know, buy-in. So that was the first one I did all by myself. The most recent one I did all by myself was an online event. And I had to set up an online place where kids who are interested in video game development, college kids, could learn how to network properly with developers on a one-to-one basis. So not like in a, here's my resume, give me a job way, but in like a, hey bro, what's up? I also like Among Us, you know, kind of more casual. And that was infinite bandwidth. I think people forget how much human capital you need to run events like that. Does that answer the question, Tuta?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much just answered the next not the next, but one of the few questions I was gonna ask. You know, so I think we have a question in the chat. Do we answer it now, or do we wait like for the whole thing to finish, then we answer it after that?
Up to you.
Yep.
After.
Okay, so there's a question in the chat from, let me just see, from Chubo, and the question is, what are the core steps to follow for planning and in managing an event? So I think we can answer that like once we're done.
Okay.
Like, yeah, once we're done, that would be fine. So because last but not least is Lucas. I don't think I asked Lucas this question. How was his main official like event, like original event, like no, not high school stuff, like professionally, like, you know, how did it go?
Well, let's see. Same as Tiffany, I kind of have 2 stories. The first one that I can call mine, I like to say about this event because it was something great for the whole university. It was basically I entered my bachelor, you know, the course, aiming to do something related to games. But when I got there, I discovered that most of the you know, the classes that were related to games, actually they weren't being used to by the teachers. You know, there was one specific teacher that he was able to, you know, teach those classes, but he had to choose at least one for each semester. And well, he kind of didn't choose many of them during, you know, my whole time in university. But I tried my way to make games a thing during my whole course, and there was the game club. Was basically this academic and playful stuff during the you know, during classes, and it was like a really small group, about like 7 or 5 people that got together, shared a PowerPoint presentation, talked about the game they liked or they study, and they wrote an article about it. And that was it. But I was stoked to participate. So in my first semester, I attended one of those events, but just me and my more like 5 other students. I was really happy. We got to know each other and many questions. And then I asked the teacher responsible for the group if I could enter the group itself in the next semester. And it was like, well, why not? We just have like 4 people aboard. And then I got together with some other friends, and we basically got from 5 people to 50 people in concurrent events. So we basically got the whole thing changed out. We managed to, you know, improve how we were perceiving and talking about games, not only to ourselves but also to other students from other courses and other classes. So it was great because it was basically I came up with the idea, but of course I had tons of help from my teachers and friends. But it was when I noticed that we could actually do something together and more meaningful to games, and not only just share PowerPoint presentations. So that was my first event that I can call my mine event. But the first professional one was definitely Game Jam Plus. I had just I had just joined Gamer Trials in back then, which is Ian's. I'm not sure Ian is here anymore, but he was before.
Yeah. Left.
So yeah, I joined the company. Like I had just participated in the version before Game Jam Plus, which was Epic Game Jam. A friend of mine, he invited me to join him in his team. He was one of the finalists. We didn't win, but I managed to participate in the event and was like super excited, so excited that I wanted to participate and do something more. So I asked Ian if I could work with him, and he said, "Well, we can work with me, but I don't have any money to pay you." I was like, "Oh well, what I'm gonna do? I just want to be part of it. I don't have any leads, any job leads right now, so what the hell? Let's do it." And then from at the end of 2017 and the beginning of 2018, I started to call everyone involved in the previous Game Jam and on other cities and other states, people from other events related to gaming, and somehow we managed to get like from 6 cities to almost 14 cities, I think, or something like that, covering all the regions of Brazil. And as you, Tuta, and Damono said, I started to just like go with the wind. But then I started to come up with some to come across some problems, as Sandra mentioned, how we're going to afford any of that we're planning to. And is there any kind of sponsorship that we can actually get for this event? And we didn't get any almost. So it was, yeah. So one of our selling points for the next year, it was like we can do a hell of an event without any money. It's not that we want to, but we can. So we managed to get Game Jam Plus up and running in 2018. It was a huge success. We managed to get tons of support from other companies, not money per se, but we managed to get a venue for the finals. Tons of developers, senior developers, helped us with the evaluations and the votings and the mentorship. So in the end of the day, I mean, by the end of the year, we managed to get like tons of people involved. Everyone was happy, even though there was like no real prize in terms of money or material things. We did have a trophy. It was really cute. But aside from that, it was basically the whole experience that really meant to all of us. It was the first time Brazil was doing something like that, like bringing together different communities of indie developers in the same place, celebrating indie development and celebrating that we can do it together and we can do it more if we help each other. So there was like some events that before that, but Game Jam Plus was the first one that was inclusive, that we could actually bring people together without the need to pay like 500 reals to get into the event. It was basically or for free or just a tiny amount that to help us to move on with the event. So yeah, was basically my first experience that I can also call my event in terms of professional matters. Yeah, that basically led where I am and where I am right now. So I'm really grateful for that experience.
Yeah, I was just gonna add and say that when you talk about the financial aspects from this, I think Veronica and I pretty much have a good idea how that is. Like, we remember when I first joined Global Game Jam, there was no finances. Everything was coming out of my bag. The only good thing was that I had a venue to do it. So, and I remember it was like, it started being so quickly because in the same year, Veronica came and introduced Game Jam Plus to me. And then from there on, I started to communicate with you. And then luckily for me, we have like a university here that just provided the venue for me to like to do it there. So like I remember Global Game Jam, we had like what one team only, and then for Global like Game Jam Plus, we had like 2 games that we created. So we managed to like to have 9 people in total, and this was the women were more than the men, like in when we did the game jam, like the participant. And I was so happy for that. Like I was so happy to see women just get involved in like the whole process, because like if like things that are like project or tech related, women are never involved in it. So I was so happy when it got involved. And when next year, this year, 2020 already, when 2020 started, I still had like more people just sign up to be like part of this. Like it wasn't more, but it was like a good number. But coming to the virtual side of things, like COVID happened and everything. So when Ronica and I started to like do Game Jam Africa, which is part of Game Jam Plus, like it's a branch of it, we online because obviously the flights were closed. COVID happened, and once again, for like our second attempt, we failed to like find sponsors. So we decided and said, we're gonna get creative. So I have a laptop and I have Wi-Fi. Veronica has the same thing. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna build up Game Jam Plus, like in Africa properly. So last year we only had 2 countries, and this year we ended up having 3, not 3, 5, something like that, which was like really like something nice to see. So we decided to like host is it workshops? At first they were good, and then it just really became a lot, because what we would do is we would like record a workshop, and then we would send it to like the, what do you call it? To the we would send it to YouTube, and people wouldn't attend anymore. So, but it became fun because when we did this project that came up, it was so lovely. Like it was so nice because we had more participants. So COVID was bad, but it was also a good thing in a way, because in a way we managed to like what's the word I'm looking for now? We managed to like have more participants, because one thing that we've realized is that people are actually more comfortable on their laptop. They're more comfortable if they do something through Skype. So I think I'm gonna go with Sandra, right? So Sandra, how was it like? How was the COVID thing? Like, did you manage to organize, or were you involved in any event or project management during COVID? And if you were, how did it go? How was this experience compared to like real life experience, like in person?
Well, to be honest, when the COVID happens, I was really like sad because we have to cancel our third event of Festival Indies Mexico, and the second one went really well. Everyone was really happy with how the event went, because like I mentioned before, the first event was a little small budget, but we tried to all the people felt welcome. The people that came to have to make a conference, the speakers, the workshops, and for the thing that we had to. I'm sorry. That we had to, we had a small budget. We focus on getting the people welcome and really well treated. I don't know how to say the word, but it went really well. And the second event, we have more budget because they saw what we can do with the little small budget. And the second one, Microsoft Mexico get us supports us. So the third one, we already planned. I was already planning in December last year, but this thing happened, and we didn't want it to make a site like well, there's not gonna be anything. There's gonna be no events. Okay, we're gonna make an online event, but I hadn't experienced making online events. And to be honest, we had the idea of make a jam in Mexico, in this Mexico jam. But then they contact me for the Game Jam Plus, and I was like, oh, this is like a sign, right? A revelation, because we didn't announce anything yet. We're just planning. But when they contact us and they talk about Game Jam Plus, it was like a really great opportunity because, like you said before, this is a bad thing, but there's also an opportunity to connect people in other ways that before the COVID happens, they weren't like they weren't like we right now when we are talking. Maybe if this what happened, we wouldn't still here, we wouldn't be here sharing our cultures, our ideas, and making networking. So this was really great, and was my COVID event, the Game Jam Plus, and
Yeah.
it was really really nice to have the opportunity of be part of it.
Yeah. Let me go with Tiffany. Did you ever do any event during the COVID period? Were you ever involved maybe in organizing one?
Yeah, so I think that there's an interesting thing about events in the time of COVID, and that is no, and this is going to be uncomfortable for not for the panelists because they know, but for whoever's watching this now or later, nobody wants to give out money when the events are digital.
Mhm.
And just because your event is digital doesn't mean you don't have to pay salaries.
Yeah.
Like you have to pay salaries, and like this is super cool. This is what I would call more of a bootstrappy event. Like the sweat equity came from like Tuta. You know, he put everything together. He made the graphics. He coordinated all of us on our preferred platforms. We used a lot of free software. I don't know if this Skype license is paid or free. And frankly, it doesn't matter. That's not my business. I'm a panelist, not an organizer
It's free.
here. But it's bootstrappy. It's bootstrappy. It's sweat equity. So if you put in what would be the cost of Tuta's time per hour, what would be the cost of if you had to pay each of these panelists for their time a nominal speaking fee, what would be the cost if you had to pay a graphic designer? And Tuta, you're based in, I forget where you're based.
Namibia, Windhoek, just next to South Africa.
Okay, so I don't know what the going rate is for contractors over there, but like you would have to, let's say, since Tuta's the host, we'll calculate all the money based on where Tuta is, as opposed to where I am, because I know in LA, all this is very expensive. Like, and in Sydney, it's even more expensive because we have less of these people and the cost of living is quite high here. So if you calculate all those costs, even if you got all that labor for free, that's your sweat equity cost. And the reason I'm mentioning this before I say if I did an online event is the cost doesn't change because it's online. If anything, it gets more expensive because you need more graphics. And then people have an expectation because people don't like paying for events online. They just don't. They expect them all to be free. This is you know, if you look at games, we have the same problem. People expect mobile games to be free. People expect a lot of browser games to be free. They won't pay for them. People expect things online to be free because we've been trained that way by the attention economy and the advertising economy. And that's fine. We just need to work around it. Why am I mentioning this? You still need money to run an event. And everyone's talked about their difficulty getting sponsorship in 2020. And like IndieCade got some sponsorship this year, but it was nothing like previous years. But we still had to make more assets. We still had to do all this. And it was hard to pivot. On the bright side, we got to have speakers from places we would never normally get our hands into, you know? We could have speakers from Africa and Los Angeles and Europe and Australia. And like, we weren't just stuck with who could fly into LA this year. But the downside is we had to make even more assets because it wasn't just putting these people on a physical stage. It was like, oh God, now we need headshots and title cards and okay, we need 5 different Twitter assets and 3 different Facebook assets. And oh, are we doing Reddit? Are we doing Reddit advertising this year? Oh, but we're trying to, you know, not spend money on advertising. And when you have an event that's traditionally live, like IndieCade, and then you're doing an online event like you had to for COVID, and then you're going to go back live when reality reopens. There's going to be this interesting thing where people are going to be like, well, theoretically, your potential market was the entire internet. Why did you only get 10% of your previous attendance? And then you have to go, excuse me, have you been on the internet, sir? Like, the internet is overloaded. And like, I'm sorry, I'm Tuta. I'm not answering your question, but I think it's important information.
No, you're answering it. You're pretty much answering it. Just go on. Because what you're stating is quite important.
Yeah.
It's so like, yeah, the entire it's called a market share fallacy when you're looking at entrepreneurship. It's like people will be like, well, if I can just get 0.01% of China's market share to buy my blankets, then it'll be a bazillion people. It's like, no, that's a fallacy. That's not how that works at all. Like no, it's better to have a small, deep share. And so like they think that the whole internet is so big. You should have infinite people. But what they forget is the internet is big, but it's also very full. Like Indiecade happened at the same time as 3 different other events online. They hit different demographics, but they're all gaming events. And so it's like your potential viewership is split. And the reason I'm mentioning this is when we go back to reality, they're going to be like, well, what did you do during COVID? They're going to be like, what did your viewership look like when you had the whole internet at your disposal in the whole world? What did your engagement look like with that viewership? And it's going to be a tough sell for sponsors next year. It's going to be really hard. People's pocketbooks are still going to be hurting from COVID. People are going to be less generous. Sponsors are going to be less generous because, you know, they might still be cash poor from having to keep employees on without producing product for 2020. And so they're going to be less likely to donate to initiatives like arts festivals, student stuff, whatever, unless there's a tax cut attached. In my opinion, this is my opinion. And so it's going to be a tough sell because you're going to have to take your 2020 numbers and explain like to people who don't always look at the internet as big, to being like, it was big, it was overcrowded. And I don't know about the rest of you, but it's November. By the time October rolled around for Indiecade, I was burnt out. I was tired. I have been to over 100 digital events at that point, and I was done. No matter what a digital event looked like, the last thing I wanted to do was sit in front of a camera with professional lighting and a professional microphone and be on. Because a bunch of studies show that networking over video chat or Zoom or Skype or, you know, your preferred video service provider is 90% more exhausting than networking in person because of the cognitive disconnect between how your brain processes video networking versus in real life in-person networking. So I don't know about you all. I never wanted to go to another event by the time it was time for me to host an event that I'm part of and that I worked really hard on. So that's how COVID has changed it for me. We're all extra tired. Everyone wants to jump on opportunities, but like we're all out of emotional bandwidth. And sometimes physical bandwidth, physical money. And like, I don't know about you guys and where you live, but in California, even in LA, it was really hard to get webcams until like even June because everywhere was just sold out online, in person. Or that people were price gouging them, so rude. Not price gouging, inflating them. They were scalping them, so rude. Shouldn't be buying a $40 webcam for $300. It's so hard to get mics and webcams and lights. I just, even for this, like this is an awesome seminar. And I'm so glad I'm here to like be part of it and bring my expertise. But Tuta, I'm sure you can back me up on this. I was a nightmare to get a hold of. I was always asleep or tired or missing meetings. And that's a side effect of everyone being burnt out. And this has nothing to do with what Tuta asked, but I think it's all important. Thank you.
No, like,
it was really,
like going back to what you, Sandra, you were gonna say something?
No, I was saying that it was awesome, all the things that Tiffany said, because it was on point.
Yeah, so I was gonna say one thing whereby in the future, if I was to ever get sponsorship to do this again with this group, we're gonna swap places. Tiffany's gonna become the host and I'm gonna become the panel because she was awesome in doing this. Like real awesome. Like
Tiffany says, "Oh, please no more."
Yeah.
Actually, I do have one more point. I do have one more point to add, Tuta, if I can have a moment. It's so,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you guys know this even better than I do, but what COVID and having to go online has really taught me is something I already know. So like, I'm a woman in video games. I look like a girl. I have a very feminine name. I have some friends whose names they can kind of like, as long as you never see them, you never know. Nah, Tiffany is a very feminine coded name. And I look very feminine. There's no way you're going to miss that I'm a girl. What COVID has taught me, and this is from attending hundreds of events, watching a ton of talks, like, you know, all of this, is underrepresented groups and people who don't look like standard developers are disproportionately outsized affected by this. What does that mean? So for those of you who don't know me and who are watching this VOD later, I spend a lot of time advocating for underrepresented groups in gaming because the only sort of nerf I have is that I'm a woman. I can only imagine what it would be if I had more nerfs. And look at the, like, I think of what women and female presenting people do. Being camera ready is very different than being real life ready. Like, you put on a lot more makeup. You make sure your backdrop is clean. Whereas in real life, you just walk on a stage, it's already clean. And it's a different type of makeup. You've got to style your hair. And when it's online, you know someone's going to take a VOD. And even if there's no VOD, there's the opportunity for someone to record it without your consent.
Yeah.
Much more than in person. So I've noticed that the female presenting people in my life put a lot more effort into their face than the male presenting people when they're going to be on camera, because the internet is very critical. And we all know that Beyonce gif from the Super Bowl where she, you know, is like stomping her foot and looks kind of like the Hulk. Everyone made fun of her. She's one of the most beautiful women in the world, and the internet roped her over the coals. What do the rest of us have as a chance? And then my colleagues, my friends, my coworkers, my associates who aren't white have had a lot more difficult time, whether they're brown-skinned or black-skinned or dark-skinned, or even if they have a yellow undertone or a pinkish undertone to their skin, have had a harder time finding cameras that white balance them properly, lighting that doesn't make them look sickly, you know, stuff like that. Like, these are the small things that we probably don't think about because it's someone else's job to affect it in real life. But when we're setting up from our living rooms and our kitchens and our closets and our bedrooms, we have to do our own white balance. We have to worry about our own camera, you know, setup. And there's the psychological thing, like if my internet's not as good as like Sandra's or Tuta's, that might make it so that I look worse compared to everyone else if we're recording a panel for PAX or something. And that could be super like, that makes me look less professional, even though it's not my fault. And it, I think, has really shown the discrepancy in like wealth and access and ability and stuff, that some people were able to buy $300 cameras on a whim so that their stream looked good. Whereas other people are like sitting in a closet, you know, talking into their cell phone. And I'm not saying that those people are less qualified. I'm saying it's showing a lot of the things we take for granted in real life when someone else is in charge of tech. And I care a lot about evening the playing field and diversity. And I've noticed my friends who are my friends who are black, my friends who have darker skin tones, they're like, lighting is hard. It's hard to find lighting for them that doesn't make them look horrible because the automatic balance on the cameras doesn't pick up their faces. They can't use a lot of Snapchat filters. The Zoom background, automatic backgrounding, it does it backwards. It thinks that they're the backdrop. And that's so rude and so not okay. So like, I don't know how to solve this. All I can do is try and make things better in the places I have control over. But I just wanted to point that out because it's something that it's kind of about making events, but it's something that COVID has really shined a light on, no pun intended, for me. Sorry, Tuta, for hijacking your thread.
Nah, it's cool. Because I was actually gonna like say that you and Damono would probably be best friends because she's going to be upset with me for this, but before we set this up, she and I last night I just had to make sure she was like presentable because she was always like, oh, we have to like fix this. We have to make sure the lighting is fine. And when you brought this up, I was like, wow, so this is legit a struggle. Because like even with me, I was like, do I use the phone for this or do I use my laptop? Because my laptop isn't really doing this justice. But it was fine. But what you brought up was such an important thing that needed to be brought up because like just with women generally as well, like Ndamona and I were also trying to like, and Ronica as well, we're also trying to like just get women involved in project events and gaming in general because there's like really like I think they're willing, they're out there, but we just need to find them. But going back to the topic, I even forgot what the topic was about, you know, because I think this is probably going to be the last thing that we're going to ask questions. Like this is such a nice.
Before you threw Veronica Plus, I just want to let you know, I spent 2 hours setting up my lighting and an hour on makeup to make sure that it was camera ready. So it's not just you, it's all of us.
Yeah, definitely. Because
if can I say something? Me too. I was a little late because I have 2 small children and I have to clean all the background. I have to clean all the background because I was late.
Yeah.
I was testing the camera because I've never used the Skype conference. So I was testing all the different camera angles to make sure you can't see any of my mess. Off camera, my suitcase is open, and clothes are thrown everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's a thing. We don't have a stage. We have our houses, and we want to look professional.
Definitely. What was the question again? The question was how was COVID doing it? So I think we're gonna go with Veronica. Like yeah, but hers is similar to mine. But Veronica, how like when you organized an event or anything, event or project related during COVID, how was your experience?
Okay, so before all of this happened and after, well, wait, in preparation of the first Game Jam Plus last year, since I didn't get a good response with the, what was it? That other Game Jam. Yeah, I decided if I can't reach out to the people who are already experienced game developers, let me create some game developers. So that's when I came about with the workshop idea. And because I was able to have the venue free, that was my one plus thing that I had. I was able to run the workshops. The only thing I needed to do was market what I was doing. So that I did for quite a few Saturdays on the days that I was available. And this year, when I was wondering how to go about doing that, I was going to plan to do the exact same thing. But when we had to go on lockdown, I looked at it as the positive, as in, okay, fine, we're on lockdown, how to make this happen. The only downside is not able to reach those who don't have frequent access to internet, because in South Africa, not everyone has frequent access to internet. So that would be the only negative point I would have had. So, but I think, let me make it work anyway. Let me go from physical on-site training to online training. And I made that happen, and I managed to get me some few students, and with that we had our workshops, game workshops. So then yeah, I didn't let COVID put a damper on things, let's put it that way. I mean, it's allowed us to work from home, it's allowed me to work from home, so that was a good thing. That's it.
Yeah. Cool. What else? So sorry for that. Just realized my mic was off. So yeah, like Veronica said, it was a very nice thing because obviously COVID sees as an opportunity, because what we've noticed was that we had more participants than we had like last year. Maybe it was because of everyone is just comfortable to be at home. So Ndamona, did you have any like, how do you call this? Did you have any events that you had to do online during COVID? And if you had,
let me just start off by saying that, with project and event management, it's something that you plan 5-6 months before you actually do the actual event. So when COVID came around, so many events were being canceled or postponed. And I'm talking about local events, like in our countries, to global events, such as the Olympics, for example. So because of that uncertainty, there was just so much disruption in our industry, in our project and event management industry. But I'm glad that now we're slowly starting to adapt. We're slowly starting to adjust. We're slowly starting to tailor our events to the pandemic. In terms of my personal experience, my company is busy restructuring. I decided to put it on hold because I went to go and study a diploma in project management. So I haven't really done any projects during the pandemic, but I have been observing and taking note of how Namibians are now doing their events and their projects. And it was good to see, when the first lockdown came, how creative they are being. How they were changing everything from in person to online, especially in the entertainment industry. There were a lot of shows that were happening now online on Instagram Live and on Facebook Live. There were a lot of art and gallery exhibitions that were also happening online, which is something that I didn't think could happen. But even with all of that, there are some challenges as well that they faced. And I think Tiffany also mentioned some of those challenges. With a lot of events being online, not everyone has access to, for example, data, or Wi-Fi to join those events. The pressure as well when you're having a professional event, like Tuta mentioned. Yesterday, I was carrying around my laptop in every room in my place, trying to get the perfect setting because I wanted to look professional today. I had to go around looking for a webcam for 2 days straight. I'm not very technologically advanced, so that was also a bit of a struggle for me. So moving everything online has also showed us, the inequalities between the individuals in our countries, and also the pressure that we want to live up to, just so that we can perform better. So yeah, that I would say is my experience during COVID.
Yeah, so I pretty much learned a lot from this than I've learned through the year. And yeah, this is why I like this thing. You learn so much from it. So last but not least, it's Lucas. Did you have any online events and how did it go?
Well, actually, I won't have many experience to share with you guys since I'm not right now organizing other events. But I do have some experience from just participating in online events. And as Tiffany said before, it is a whole different feeling when you're just doing call after call after call than actually meeting the person, in physically. It's just not the same. It doesn't feel right sometimes, just staring at a camera or a screen and not shaking hands. It's way weirder. But I know well, there is a good side, and all that many of you mentioned, that more people are being able to participate in events that they would never be able to. So I managed to talk to a lot of publishers and developers from places that I've never even considered that I would go to, like from Southeast Asia or even other countries from Africa, and some other places in Europe even that I never even considered I would visit or even talk to people from there. So there's this good part in this kind of online events from COVID, due to COVID. But I personally, I can wait for us to get a vaccine and just go again to events and
Yeah.
meet people in real life and go to do karaoke after events and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's my experience in online events. I'm enjoying them as much as I can, but I just can't wait to get to the real thing again.
I
Yeah.
can build on that a little, Lucas, because your point made me think. I completely agree with you. the way I would articulate it is like, there's a more breadth of possible connections, but they're shallower. Like I've met way more people online, but I don't think I can convert or execute or, you know, move to the next step with a lot of them until we get more FaceTime. I don't know if that answers.
No, it's exactly that. I mean, I can talk to a lot of people, just do some follow-ups by email, but it's not the same that well, why don't we just go grab some coffee after event, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a different feeling, you know. The way that you communicate, it's completely different, and it just adds to what you guys said before.
Yeah.
Sorry for hijacking again.
No, don't worry.
It's actually cool. So I think that's the end for. I think that is the end for like this whole project event management seminar. I would like to continue it for long, but I think the time zones and just the other responsibilities that the other members have is the reason why we're gonna have this like just on a short call. So now it's time for questions, you know. So I see we have 2 people in the chat. I'm so grateful you guys managed to make it, even though we were gonna put it online. You guys still decided to say, hey, we're gonna do this online. We're gonna be there because online is just where it's at. So the one question I have here is that we have Damien who joined the chat, and then we have Chubo as well. So yeah, Chubo has a question, and the question is, what are the core steps to follow for planning and managing an event? So who would like to answer that? Or who's best suited to answer that? Okay, everyone can answer it, but we'll go with Tiffany first.
I was going to say, I have a fairly comprehensive list on this, but I'll give you the TLDR because there's a whole bunch of articles out there that you can go deeper on. But for me, first off, decide what kind of event are you going to do. And so the first layer of that is online, in person, hybrid. Highly recommend online during COVID. So once you do that, because each event has different inputs and different outputs, and I'm sure that other people in the seminar will have way more to build off of this after I do my TLDR. So figure out what your style of event is going to be. Then figure out your target market. Who are you looking for? Is your event aimed at students? Is it aimed at women? Is it aimed at game developers? Is it aimed at game players? And don't do something silly like, my event is for everybody in the country of America. That is not the target market. And people who play games 18 to 25, also not a target market. If you Google the term agile personas, you'll find a bunch of stuff online about how to build a persona. Basically, you make a little action figure mentally of who is the perfect person to attend your event. So like IndieCade, for example, our target market is video game developers and independent developers who love games and the art of play. It's very distinct. You can think of who it is. And then like our secondary is like underrepresented groups, underserved developers, and global developers. So that's why we have a lot of, you know, non-white developers. We have a lot of non-male developers because we actively target those markets. So know what your event is going to be format-wise, who you're targeting with your event. Once you have those, you can think your next step, which is, how do I get the targets of my event? If my target is sorority girls from Ivy League schools on the East Coast, where do those girls live? I don't mean their actual houses. I mean the spots on the internet where you can find them. How do I end up on their mailing list? What hashtags do they consume? Are they over-indexed on Instagram or TikTok? What does your event look like? What's your format? Who's your target? Where does your target nest? Then start thinking about how to best attract that target. Okay, so if my demographic is people who like designer coffee and live in major metropolitan areas, what does that stylistic, and they really like Instagram, what is the style of the Instagrams they like? What is the style of tweets they like? Spoiler alert, it's VSCO Cam, okay? It's VSCO. So what's the format of my event? Who is the target of my event? What does that target like? I mean, where does that target nest? Like, how do I get them? Once you have all that, Then I don't mean sending them emails yet. I mean, once you've got that on your board, I personally, oh, have I hidden it? Here it is. I personally have 2 like lined notepads, like from the 90s. And in this one, I have the big ideas, things like all the stuff I just listed. And then I'll make a 1 sheet on a small notepad for each answer to those questions. Once I've answered them, then you start thinking about your resources. What do I have? What do I have in fiscal capital? Well, if it's an online event in 2020, the answer is $0.exe. Then you think of your sweat equity, your human capital. Do you have friends that you can call on to help you build a digital space? Do you happen to know somebody who knows how to make graphics? What human capital? Do you have someone who's willing to just sit in Twitch chat and block anyone who uses a swear word? Human capital, fiscal capital, and then other resources. So that would be like, I have a free Zoom account that my work gave me. I'm a member of the IGDA, and they have a bunch of resources I can use. I have connections. So fiscal, human, other. And then start laying it all out. And this is one of the other panelists' points. She said, like, you start this 5 months in advance. Once you have those questions answered, then you think about your live day of operations. Who's going to be moderating? Who's going to babysit the ban list? Who's the point of contact? How much publicly available information? And where are people going to find it? Once you have those, congratulations, you're ready to put together your programming and execute your event. Afterwards, follow up with sponsors, stakeholders, and clients. Stakeholders are listed as anyone who cares about your event. Yeah, that's sort of my core steps for follow for planning and managing events. Somebody who's better at this than me, please fill in the gaps that I inevitably left.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything to add. The only thing I was probably going to add and say is that before you start an event, it's also important to have like a theme and tone and how you want to do it. But I don't have anything further to add. Does anyone have anything they would like to add?
Yeah, I'd just like to add something. You know, in my experience, something that's very important is planning and communication. You need to spend a lot of time planning your event, looking at the different aspects that you need to consider in your event. You know, look at your scope, look at the work that needs to be done, look at your schedule. How long are you going to need to do each one of those activities? Tiffany also mentioned your resources, your human resources. Who's going to do what? When are they going to do it? And communicate as much as possible with your team members. If anything small happens, it may be small to you, but it may be big to the rest of your team members. So planning and communication, very, very key in my experience and in my eyes.
Yeah, if I can add anything after all that, it's just as Ndamono said, it's communications like top priority for me. And also sometimes when you're organizing something for the first time, you spend so much time thinking about it and organizing that you forget that you're actually also running the event. So make sure you'll be there to run the event, because if you plan it by yourself and you have like a small team, the small team will be you included. So organize everything and think that something will happen afterwards and you just be, like overviewing. It's not. You're going to be running every aspect of the event. Even the ones that you think someone else would do for you, you'll be there, just making sure that everything is running smoothly or as close as smoothly as possible. And that's the other thing. Things usually go wrong. I mean, not it's not that, I'm not cursing anyone, but that's basically what happens every event. Something will go out of tracks at some point. And you just need to be prepared for that. You just need to have some kind of backup plans, or at least be ready to react when something not previously planned happens. Because that was what happened to us in previous years. And that's something that I ended up being actually turned out to be, having some kind of capability in dealing with. And it's crucial when you have something in your team that can deal with unprecedented things.
Can I add something? Something that Tiffany said, that The planning is really important, and to write the ideas on paper and in a notepad, it really, for me, it was really helpful. So I have my notebook here. This is our logo, and I have all the notes, the ideas of the first event, the second one. So this is really helpful, and to think about the content that you're gonna offer in your event. Like we said, if I don't have this, how can I replace? Like I have some friends that can help me with this, and that's basically all this starts with the ideas. Not writing people first, get straight ideas, and then you start to going ahead with all the rest.
Okay, Nika, would you like to add something? Okay.
No.
Because what I was going to add as well to that was that when Veronica and I were organizing like the whole workshops and stuff, just when Game Jam Plus happened, we realized that, oh, we made a mistake. And then it was like, what? We were pretty much supposed to have like a project event management kind of workshop for just the first timers, like how it's going to work. And we just knew it that we made a mistake then and there. I mean, obviously it wasn't like a critical mistake, but it was something we definitely looked among ourselves and said, yeah, we need to have things like this in the future, you know? So that's what I'll add there is that along the way, when you organize stuff, you're not really going to make mistakes, but you're just going to look at it and say, what would I have done that would have been better in this event? And that's always something that I look at. Like, to be honest with you, I don't really want to do project event management for the rest of my life. This is just something like we do on the side. Like, this is just something we do on the side because we have, you know. So those are one of the things that I would probably like add up and say. So, do we have any more questions in the chat? Or I see Chubo is still typing. I was pretty much going to say Chuba can pretty much just open up his mic and talk if he wants to, but yeah, that's what I have to add. So does anyone have anything they would like to add or say?
I just wanted to thank the opportunity to tell. It was great talking to all of you. It was great meeting you all. I'm definitely going to stalk you guys on LinkedIn and Twitter. and just thank you so much. It was great to hear all these different kind of experiences from all of you. It's always good to know that there are new people coming on this gaming world, and I will be always glad to help you guys whenever you want, as much as I can possibly in my capabilities. So feel free to reach out to me in any kind of social media, email, or whatever. I'll be glad to talk to you guys.
Yeah, don't worry. We're gonna have a little panelist meeting when this is done. Like just a small one, like 10-15 minutes. When all the questions are done.
The first one. Now you're making everyone do it again.
Yeah. So thank you all for like attending this. Do any of you would like to add anything, or is that it?
Feel free. I was going to say, feel free to find me online at Tautomatic on Twitter. I also will do my best to help out however I can. Thank you so much to Tuta for putting this together. And in general, please feel free to reach out in public forums. Like there's a bunch of info out there if you reach out and ask, no matter what it is.
Yeah, definitely. So
I would also just like to echo everyone's sentiments. Thank you so much, Tuta, for putting this together, for giving us the platform to share our experiences, to share knowledge. And we hope to do this again sometime.
Yeah. Ronnie?
Same. Great to meet some of the new people. Great to meet someone from Mexico. That is awesome.
Okay. So anyway, I don't have anything to add. So I don't think the participants have anything to add either. So I'd like to thank you guys for just being part of this and agreeing to accept this. Yeah, it's because it was just a little bit rough. So, but I'm glad we got this out of the way, you know? So what I'm gonna do right now is that I'm gonna stop recording, and then I'm probably gonna remove some of the participants, and then we're gonna have another panelist meeting.
All right.
Very good.
Thank
Is
you.
that okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you guys for coming on here, and have a nice day. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the invitation to Terlini.